Hi, this is again, I'm your advisor. So I'm recording this video in case that I have to repeat what I'm going to say over and over again. I actually have said what I'm going to say like several times a year, so I decided to record this so that you can just watch this video and watch it over once if you want to repeat it. So here's my advice if you are a now Mandarin speaking student at HKU, um, and if you are not a local, and if you just this is your first time spending a long time living in Hong Kong and start your study in at HKU. So I have several points to make. The first is that I assume that you're either from Korea, South Korea, Japan, or India, or maybe Vietnam, or maybe some European countries. Not all of my points are right, for sure, but this is basically my sincere advice to you if you want to ask me about how to improve your college life or you want to make it more smooth. The first thing is that I noticed that in my past experience talking with the now Chinese students, that they some of them feel that the Hong Kong living cost is very high. Well, compared to many other, if you're from Europe, you probably don't have this feeling. But if you're from, say, some other places like the Eastern Europe, you probably find that the price level is almost crazy. Well, my advice is that yes, it is. It's not low for sure, especially the rent. But you don't have to. And advise that you don't spend too much time thinking about this. If you don't have money, um, borrow it from the parents or borrow it from or just earn it. I'm not sure if your visa allows you to work part time here, but there are plenty of internship opportunities or even just part time research opportunity like data collection and the other opportunities to earn some pocket money in Hong Kong. So you can try to find them. I know some people have tried to find them. And I know that many professors have their research fund. If you work um, um, not only hard but efficiently, I think many professors want to hire. Also, in industry, if you know some people, they're probably providing you some good opportunities. So don't spend too much time thinking about saving money. That is not efficient to optimize your college life. So the big besides this, my biggest point to make is that I advise you to focus on what you really need for your next step after college. If your next step is to pursue a master or even a PhD degree, you probably want to focus on your GPA because a low GPA will definitely get you a rejection letter from their application in the future. I think, well, you probably have some talents that, or you probably have some connections, like your parents are the famous professors. If your parents are famous professors who have connections to the top U.S. college or the European college professors, then just forget what I'm gonna say. But I don't think what I'm gonna say will hurt you. So if you're interested, I'm still gonna go through this. Focusing on GPA is crucial if you don't have special connections because if you are a recruiter, like you're facing applications from like thousands, even dozens of thousands of people, then you probably only spend like 5 seconds or no more than 10 seconds scanning every CV. Then the first thing they're going to notice is your GPA. If your GPA is too low, they probably don't have the patience or they don't have the interest in looking at the other things on your CV. So get your GPA's good way for you to prove that you treat your study seriously. Because if you have a low GPA, but it's hard for you to convince a recruiter that you are also very good on the other things. Well, you probably are, but it's hard for them to be convinced. So if you don't have special connections, if you don't have special talents, then get a high GPA doesn't hurt, I would say, at least. And um, if you just not only want to go for a master or a PhD, like advanced study, if you just want to get a job after college, getting a high GPA also helps. For example, like in the investment banks or the Hong Kong is financial center. Most of the highly paid jobs are in the finance industry or consulting or the lawyer, like the law firms doing the trade and the international finance service. As far as I know, most of these firms require the applicants, their interns and the full time job seekers to have high GPAs, because this is the high GPA will prove your your capability. While it's not a perfect indicator of your capability, but it's not a very bad one. It's at least better than most of the other indicators. So get a high GPA. That's my advice. And the second one is I advise you to start looking for jobs. If you want to have a full time job after college, I advise you to start the job or the internship seeking as soon as possible, from the first year, the freshman year. Uh, you probably want to think about this when you are focusing on a GPA. You probably also want to think about where to get the jobs. So the mistake that I know that a lot of people, especially the freshmen, has made is to be easily frustrated. That is, you apply for say 20 jobs, 20 positions, and you got all rejected, then you're frustrated and you stop. Don't do that. It's the probability to get recruited is very very low, especially for the large firms or the firms, the companies that a lot of people want to go into. So the probability, I don't know the exact number of the probability, but I guess it's around like 5% to 1%. So it's pretty low. Not I don't know any of the good positions with the probability over 20% that you can get in. I don't think that's possible, because for these positions, a lot of people want to get in, and and a lot of people are applying for it. And remember that your competitors are not just in Hong Kong. So you're applying from HKU, while you also face the competition from CUHK, HKUST, CTU, PolyU, and the other colleges. Not only so, you are also facing the competition from, because it's a financial center, you're also facing the competition from the Singaporean schools, the college students there. You're also facing the competition from some South Korean firms, and a lot of applicants from mainland China, and a lot of applicants from Europe, from the U.S. I know for a lot of jobs, especially the international brokers, the investment banks, there were college students from Stanford, Harvard, Berkeley, Columbia, Yale, MIT. They a lot of them are applying for positions in Hong Kong. Not to mention the people in France. So you're basically competing with people around the world. So the chance that you get into is very very small. If you just got frustrated and stopped, then you're basically giving the chance to the other people. In fact, everyone is facing, except for the very very few people who have special connections or special talents or special past experience. They Most of the people are like you. It's a lottery game. It's you play it or you're out. So you apply for it, because as far as I know, the application is free, right? So if the application is free, there is basically no cost for you to apply for like 100, 200 jobs. You just keep doing it. Keep doing it. And how to increase your chance of getting enrolled. One thing is that you have to polish your CV. You have to spend time polishing your CV. ask your friends, or if you know someone working in the industry already, or if you know some people who graduated several years earlier and have been working for several years, even just 1 year is much better than nothing. So give your CV to them, then ask them to revise your CV, and if another person is that he or she probably will view your CV from a different point of view. They can point out the mistakes or the errors or even the spelling mistakes that I often observe from my students' CVs, my RA CVs. They can spot that pretty easily, and you probably don't get that. Remember that the recruiters only spend like 6 to 5 seconds on your CV. So if you got a spelling mistake, then you're over. You lost a chance. You lost a slot. So so polish your CV is the first thing. The second thing is that if you're in if you have some connections from your parents' side, use that. Don't feel embarrassed of using your parents' connections because other people will be using it. Um, if you don't have any connections, make it. There were a lot of industrial events here. I think if you Google that, you can get that, and you can you most of the events are free, so you can just dress up, like suit up, buy a suit and dress up, then get in and just introduce yourself to the other people. Most of the people will just say whatever, who are you? And they don't. They probably like there are a lot. They don't have to talk with you, so they probably just don't talk with you and walk away. But don't get yourself frustrated. The world works like this. The people who overcome one frustration over another will finally get the chance. You probably don't, like in the end, but at least you tried. If you don't try, you get no probability. You got zero probability getting into this. But if you try, you can somehow know some people. I think, like if you go to 1 or 2 or 3 events, you finally will meet someone. Especially if you have a good CV, like even that your CV has nothing but a good GPA, it helps. So people will know you, then they probably will give you some information, whether they have some vacant slots that you can get in. If you get in, then hey, you have your first step. Then you can, if you do well, then people in the company, then you will know dozens of colleagues. You expand your connections, and then uh, you can use their connections. They will help you find other internships, and eventually, like in your summer, in the third year, the junior year or the final year, you will get a return offer from a company that you want to work at. This is a traditional. I'm talking about the traditional way, like in Hong Kong, about like successful, like a successful, and it's not really successful because it's just a very traditional way. After college, either doing a advanced study or you find a good job. A good job defined by first well paid, second, but more importantly, you like it. So that's a good job. That I define a good job like this. You like it and it's well paid. So if you don't want to do the other things, I think like everyone has their own objective. Everyone has their own like the goal, their own goals. So if you want to say doing a startup or something like my overall advice is that doing that as soon as possible. Some of you probably want to, and another advice is that collect as much information as possible. Because if you're in Hong Kong, if you don't read Chinese, then you're probably going to miss a lot of information. Wrong information will lead you to make some wrong decisions. So some of your effort will be wasted or directed to a wrong way. Um, so the other advices will be if you don't speak any Mandarin but you're interested, I think it's it's economically beneficial, financially uh, rewarded to do so. Um, I'm not sure like how the Mandarin education is provided at HKU or in Hong Kong, but I think there should be some. About Cantonese, I'm interested in Cantonese. I'm not a native speaker, but I speak some Cantonese. I can talk with the daily conversation. I can make it with native speakers, but you don't have to because if you are not specifically interested in linguistics or the local culture, because most of the Hong Kong people they speak some daily English, so you shouldn't find yourself in trouble if you just speak English. If you want to use your connections, or if you want to use your resource to expand your career in China, then Mandarin is a must. So if you say if you're Korean, I think it's gonna give you a lot of opportunities. Um, Say that you finish studying here, then you can work for a Korean company in China, doing some the international trade or the other services between China and the other companies. I know some people are doing this. I know that that this is a way, this is a feasible way. Um, and if you don't have any connections besides going through the social events or industrial events, um, it's just expand your cultural links. For example, if you're Korean, I know there are a lot of Koreans in Hong Kong, and if you're Japanese, then there are a lot of Japanese in Hong Kong. Just get into their circles and introduce yourself. If you perform well, if you do well, then people will like you because you guys are minorities in Hong Kong. So I don't think like there are a huge amount of people. This is a disadvantage, but this is also an advantage. This is an advantage in the sense that you can it's easier for you to know a larger proportion of all the people with the same background as you have in Hong Kong. So say like there were only 1,000 like people from your country in Hong Kong, then you know like 40. Then you basically know like 4%. It's impossible for me to know 4% of Chinese in this city because there are so many Chinese here. But for you, you can get the links, and if you do well, they are. I think they will be happy to introduce you some opportunities. I know that I had a Korean advisee who successfully got some connections and he got into a big firm. I don't quite remember. Like he likes to do finance. He doesn't have a very good GPA, but he has okay. It's above like 3.3 or something. I don't quite remember. But he got a good position. He his Mandarin is just a so not very good, but he works at the Korean company in Hong Kong. I'm not sure if I think he graduated already. Um, Another thing will be that if you're a foreigner here, and some people asked me this before, say whether you wanna fit into the local culture, like the local students. Well, HKU is a very international community. There are a lot of international students. You don't have to. My simple answer will be focus on what you have to focus on first, like the study and the connections. You don't have to fit into the culture if you don't want to, or the cost is too high. The opportunity cost is too high. I know that if you live in the hall, they probably have a lot of like say high table dinner or many other events. I'm not sure about them because I'm never a part of them. If you feel they're interesting and you really want to do them, then do them. If you don't feel right about them, you don't have to. The Probably the cost is that they kick you out. Well, even you do this, what they told you. I know some of my students got kicked out. Even they did what they are told to do, but even you got kicked out, the only cost is that you have to pay a higher rent in Hong Kong. But if it's affordable to you from the family side, then I think you still want to focus on what you have to focus on. I think the last thing is the military service. Some of you are from the countries that the military service is mandatory. If if you wanna, if you have to leave for several years, I suggest you um, to finish the most important courses. Say you have like two course series. Like this is probability theory, this is statistics, and this is econometrics. Then you probably want to finish all of them like either or before your military service or after your military service because um, after 2 years of military service, you probably will forget everything that you learned before. So I had a Korean because there are so many Koreans here. I have other like from India, from Japan, from the other countries, but I have many Korean advisees. That's why I always use a Korean to, for example. The he so he found me like this year and he said like, "Hey, professor, I want to thank you for treating me a dinner like say 3 years ago or something." I was like, "Do I know you?" He said, "Yeah, because you treated me dinner and talked with me for a couple of times like this, like that." And I was, "Oh, I remember," because I said like, "Where are you? You just disappeared." He said, "Because I went back to Korea for the military service, so I was in the camp for 2 years. I didn't contact you because I was in camp." Um, then then I just I then asked him. I said, like, can you? So why? So I'm very happy that you still remember me and you come back for me. But what I can help you? And he said, like, he feel difficult to catch up with the courses because he basically just forget everything that he has learned before. So this is my advice. If you want to analyze your courses and ask the other people if you're not sure and about like what courses are linked together, like their knowledges are related. They want to arrange all of these courses together, like before or after your military service, like say 1 or 2 or 3 years. You wanna get all of them done. Um, Otherwise, you probably will face some challenge when you get back. The military service is important. If it's mandatory, if you don't get back to do it, then it's going to be illegal. So you still have to do it. So basically, this is what I'm going to say. If you still have any questions after watching this video, I'm happy that you can come back to me. We can probably have a lunch or dinner together to answer your questions. Okay.